It says we are live. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to OreAni. This is our 2020 winter anime lineup. Thank you for joining us, and we're really happy to have you all here at the beginning of the new year. With us, as usual, is our good old group. We have Sean.
Hello.
We have Vincent.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
We have Albert.
Hello.
Right there in the center. We have Nick.
Just water today.
And it's myself. Hello, everyone. To those who couldn't join us, hope you had a nice New Year's and a great Christmas. I think we did it. Did we have our last video after Christmas?
I think so.
I think so.
So just, yeah. Well, both of them still, anyway.
Well, CNY is coming up, so.
So thank you all for joining us for this whole new year. I'm actually pretty excited with some of the titles we got starting off. So let's go ahead and get this anime review started with our first title. Ishizoku Reviewers.
Jesus. I think this is a sign of where the industry is going.
So, yeah.
Let's just switch to the Albert cam so we can see him shake his head.
So, I believe it's only 2 episodes out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who wants to take the lead on this? Actually, let's let Sean take the lead on this because he doesn't really get much to talk about.
The top Ishizoku reviewer, that's myself. Ask me anything.
Did
you watch the censored or uncensored version?
I guess the first one I saw censored and the second one I saw uncensored.
So both. Wow.
Yeah. How would you... I guess it's a fantasy... It takes place in a fantasy world, and it's about a group of guys that, like, tour the brothels, and they start writing reviews for each of the brothels. So it's kind of like this roundtable review of, like... And they go to, I don't know, Fairyland or something. It's a brothel for... It's a brothel full of fairies, and they're going to rank what is it like to do with a fairy. And, you know... Geez, I don't even want to describe this scenario. It has implications. It's like, okay, we need to measure your junk so we can figure out like which fairy can take it, and they I guess something that fascinates me about this show is that it's the most shameless anime I've ever watched. Like it is completely without shame and completely without pretension, which is like the important part. You know, because a lot of these like fan service titty things are gonna like try to come up with some story or try to make odes to like character development. This doesn't have any of that. You know, it does not give a fuck. It like knows why you're here, and it doesn't mess around with anything else. So in some weird way, that's kind of refreshing. That is not putting on any airs whatsoever. Is just like the purest fan service show possible.
So, since you've seen 2 episodes, I've only seen the first one because I wasn't able to get on to watch the second one. The first episode basically reviewed 2 species, right? So, is it like the same format where they do like 2 different, like part 1, part 2, where they review 2 different other species, or was it all just fairies, that episode 2 or something like that?
I'm trying to remember. No, it's
2.
There were 2 in episode 2.
Yeah, I was about to
Fairy
say.
Fairy and demon.
Whenever the next episode synopsis comes out, it like gives away the title for the next episode, and it kind of indicated the stuff that was going to be present in the next one. Was what I recall from only watching the first. But yeah, as Sean kind of said, this is set in like an RPG fantasy world where when you're not, monster slaying, like
Well,
a lot of groups of adventurers hang out at this bar, and there's this bulletin board where you can post information, and when people buy copies of the information, that goes to you as like, the your profit for supplying good information. And on a whim, as Sean said, the two protagonists of the show were having a disagreement on um, which. I'm getting a little feedback. I think. Oh, I think it's solved. Um, what? Who was more enviable of the two that were being compared? And I'm just trying to leave that vague intentionally. And that's when they had this kind of like almost roundtable discussion of they pulled two other bystanders in and said, here are what you're like, reviewing. Give us your take. And that's where the premise of the show kind of showed a little intrigue to me, because they seem to have a large cast of the Mon Musume, but also just beast race men as well. I don't know if there's a coined term for monster men. I know there is for women. Good old Japan. But the cast that reviews the Monster Girls seems to vary between episode, and they try to bring interesting aspects to the table of like what appeals to certain races as a whole instead of just like a straightforward review. So it's a little bit of like weird food for thought that I never considered before, but that's kind of what I'm like watching this thing for.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, like the first episode, they were talking about like age gaps and such. Like,
Yeah.
if you're an elf, then like the oldest human on the
Yeah,
oldest
500
human in the
years
world
versus,
is practically a
like,
loli to
50-year-old
you.
human.
You know?
And like the human would be, she looks young, that's better. The elf would say like her mana's old, that sucks. And the werewolf would say that the older 500-year-old one smells worse. The other one, if you think of her as a soft orc, it's better. It's like, ooh. Like, this show just that's where its comedy shines. And like one of the not super weird things, but like when it came to like the cat girl aspect, like they did the non-traditional cat girl with like the paw hands that I've never really seen done before, but it's just the design of the show. And like I said, I know they have a wide variety of content to pull from. I'd almost I'd almost prefer to have a more like full view from each race per review, but that's more than the show could probably offer. So
The format of review, doesn't Famitsu, the like old gaming magazine, don't they review in that format where they get like four people to play the game, and they do like a 1 to 10 score, and then they add up all the scores to get like 38 out of 40 or something.
Yep.
So, the one thing I want to say about this, that it started off kind of like an argument on who was better and who was worse, and then it became more or less just them giving their opinions on each species, which is what I liked, because rather than them fighting over who's thinks their opinion's better, it's more or less telling them what they liked about their experiences or why they didn't like it, which I thought was a little more fun, rather than us just arguing with each other, just saying, no, this is better, no, that's better. And the other thing is, I don't know if you all know this, but this is actually, I think, based off of a manga, because I think I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's a manga.
Yeah.
But it was translated so terribly, like the first time I saw it, that I didn't really read too much into it. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I remember this. And I'm going to have to go back and see how it follows that manga and see just how close it is. But I was surprised to actually see this title.
Yeah, when I think about the reviews and like what they're doing, it kind of makes sense in the internet age, I guess. where they're basically writing these reviews and posting them on a wall, which is not unlike a website like Yelp, where you go around and like rate all the restaurants or something, and then you can look them up. In a time before Yelp, there were a lot more like mediocre restaurants, but now with Yelp, the restaurants are like way more competitive. I mean, it is like a total aside. I guess to say something actual about the show, the show is like insanely racist sometimes, and but the fantasy worlds kind of enable that. So for example, in episode 2, they had this kind of like this break in between the A part and the B part, where they showed this fantasy TV show, and it was about like, let's rate the top 10 monster species you would not want as a husband or wife or something.
Oh yeah, the Family Feud style.
Yeah, so imagine that, but in real life with humans. And it's like, as I saw it, like my jaw just like, yeah. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy racist. But that's okay. It's already this show. Like, it actually doesn't matter.
Right. Let's just ignore the sexist part about it too. Oh God.
It
Yeah, I
just
just
disregards so many things. So.
I can't believe it just got actually made, right? And then I'm pretty sure like even it's in a shonen magazine type place, right? I think it's classified as shonen by
What?
totally not appropriate.
What?
For
No, the youth of Japan are doomed.
Wow.
Well,
The
I
being
mean,
was saying stuff.
if they are completely unmoved by this, yes, they are doomed because they have no libido. But and I'm pretty sure that there are essentially hentai versions of this idea, right? Of fantasy creature prostitution brothel whatever. So it's just it's the same thing with like the what Doga Kobo has been doing this last couple of times with their
Oh god.
lolicon adult lolicon mainstreaming. I mean, like, why don't you just keep it as a web or OVA and not try to push it into mainstream, because this is just not gonna fly all over the place. I mean, but whatever. So I'm pretty much resigned to, inappropriate content just coming out all over the place.
So wait, was the manga classified as shonen, were you saying, or is the show somehow?
Yeah, I thought the manga.
Okay.
Yeah, it's published. I think it's published a month late Dragon Age, so it does fall into the shonen category. Weird.
I got you. The anime probably could have took it in not like a different direction, but a lot of times when we've seen it done before, when a certain studio gets a title that's other people have read as, say, a light novel, and then they kind of turn it into something a little more ecchi than the original was. It's like, I can see that being maybe in the original manga, but they repurposed it a little bit for the anime. But since I didn't read it, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, they should have just gone full hentai. The manga is published by Yen Press in the U.S., so there is an official translation, apparently. Tank.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the magazine that it's like published in, and they also publish Amagi Brilliant Park and Full Metal Panic, Gossick, Canon.
No, I believe
blah,
that.
Blah,
it's just when you check
so it's not like Shonen Jump type Shonen, but
I get you.
I guess it's like, I don't know.
The anime didn't seem
older.
to inherit that tag on any of the reputable sources. So.
Like, I actually don't know like why this would be for anyone other than like old Japanese salarymen.
It's because there's no harem scenario.
It's like, why is this printed in any sort of like youth magazine? It's insane.
Yeah.
Questionable decision by editors.
The entire there's a whole question about, is shonen, like manga, shonen magazines really read by shonen? And the answer appears to be no. So,
Yeah.
I get you. That makes a little bit of a
so it's
balance.
probably on the borderline stuff, whatever. Let's move on.
Yes, let's
Sure.
move on. Let's move on to a title that I just saw yesterday. How do you say that? Jibaku Shonen Hanako-san? Or Kun?
Hanako-kun.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I said san by mistake.
Yeah, so this is something I picked up because the art looked interesting, like the concept art or whatever from the PV. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. So I just took a look at it, and it is actually a little bit interesting. So let me go ahead and show you what it looks like. Share. Hope this works. Yep, there we go. So, the basic story is that Hanako-san is kind of like an urban legend about this girl ghost that usually is on school property, usually is on the third floor of the old building, the school building, and is in the third stall of the girls' bathroom. And she's somehow bound there because she, in most cases, died some sort of tragic accident. And so her spirit, her ghost, is bound to that location. So in this school, Kamome Gakuen, this young girl, Nene, that you see here, she wants to make a wish. And Hanako-san is supposed to be able to grant you wishes. Kind of a weird premise of a toilet, spirit. But she goes, and it turns out that Hanako-san is not a girl, but a young boy. And she becomes involved with the supernatural elements that are in and around the school. And in the first instance, Nene is kind of heartbroken from a failed romance, which didn't even actually start. Some boy that she liked ended up liking someone else, so she's heartbroken about that and decides, oh, she needs to make a wish so that she could, become her senpai's girlfriend. And it goes awry, as you would expect. And the interesting part about this is that the art is kind of unique. It's very vibrant. I haven't read the actual manga, but the colors are like a vibrant pastel, I guess. Let me see if I can. There's Hanako-kun, who is in the old type school uniform. We don't really know how old he is or what his story is, but I think it'll be revealed as the episodes come. The other thing that you should know is that although the artwork and the concept, the character designs are very pretty, the animation itself is very minimal. Like there are tons of scenes that are essentially barely moving, kind of like the moving picture style, so a moving manga or manga, what do they call it? Movic, like MOOC. So like a moving book, right? So that kind of style. Although the framing of certain scenes, let's see if I can, like here, it looks like it's lifted from like two manga panels. There's a panel line in the middle of the screen. You have thick line art. So it is interesting in that case. I've watched the first two episodes, and it's pretty. It doesn't take up a lot of time, and the character designs are eye catching. So I do like it for that. One thing to note is that the girl Nene is voiced by Akari Kito, who last year voiced one of the characters with the least spoken lines, Nezuko. So I'm sure she's very happy that she's gotten a speaking role. And the boy Hanako-kun is actually voiced by Megumi Okada. Megumi is a girl's name, and yes, he is voiced by a her, and she is most famous for voicing Yue in the Cardcaptor series. So you will recognize his voice. Um, so those are the two main protagonists. There's a couple other characters that do show up. And as of episode 2, it seems like there's a darker aspect to Hanako Kun's why he's bound and his spiritual existence, because it's implied that he did actually kill someone in the past, and that's why he's actually there. But we don't know. I think the manga is still continuing, so I don't know how far it's going to go. I presume each episode there'll be some sort of supernatural element that they need to address in the school, probably just the school. There's no indication he can leave the school premise, but maybe an outside thing Nene finds and becomes involved when will follow them into school. So there's that way of bringing in non-school things. But yeah, I mean, overall, animation is questionable, but the art is very pretty, and I'm kind of enjoying it on the side. But it's not a strong recommend from me because of the limitations.
I've only seen one episode and I was kind of bored by it, but I will second that the art is awesome, and like the just watch the premiere just to look at the art. Like every frame is like a painting or something. And I don't know. I guess I like the Taisho Roman stuff too. When I was watching it, I looked up uh the storyboarders and designers and stuff just to see if anyone was ex Shaft, and the answer is no. But nevertheless, it gave me that kind of like Shaft vibe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of character in the visuals in that sense.
Yeah,
Right.
I also checked. Go ahead.
But
No.
story-wise, it didn't particularly grab me. That's all I have to say about it.
That was kind of my same thing. It's not that I a lot of times care not for art or story. It just, while a rather intriguing take on a lot of concepts, it just when the first episode ended the way it did, I usually will have a vague sense of the direction that the show is going, and I couldn't really get like a clear sense. Like I know the premise that it established, and I could see a little bit of like potential parts of in which way the story would kind of go, but it was one of those where I not that I'm complaining or saying it's bad, it just didn't do things right in my opinion.
So the one thing that interested me when I was watching it was how different she was compared to everyone else. Because everyone else actually had more normal set bodies, even the other females. While her size and everything was the only one thing that was like very different from all the other characters.
Yeah, she's kind of a chibi form.
Yeah, so I found that very interesting, and I kind of want to watch a little more to see if any other characters will stand out like that, if they're going to be part of the main story or anything like that. Um, but I also brought back some memories from some old manga that I read when they started calling her Daikon because of her ankles. Because of the there's some manga I've read where they've referred to some of the characters like that, and I thought it was funny as hell. So it brought a smile to my face when they were doing that skit. But overall, it seems interesting, but like you said, nothing really grabs me right at the moment. But it may be something I watch on the side. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. The next title here we have is looks like Plunder.
Is that what it looks like?
put on. Yeah, sir.
Is this
So
another isekai?
no, it's
No,
not.
actually.
Oh, okay.
This is
So,
next, Chris.
since I'm the one who kind of put it up, it's something that I noticed Tank was watching as well. So it's essentially it's a world with like obtuse rules kind of thing. Essentially, everybody is born with a count on their body somewhere, and whatever the count is about is like with you at birth. It's like arbitrary to you. Not everybody's the same. And in this world, whatever your thing is, like for one of the main characters of the shows, it's how many time, like how many like hundreds of miles they walk. So like every like let's just say 100 miles, they'll get a count. And the world has almost like a hellish side known as the abyss, and that enforces basically this obtuse counting aspect of the world. The world is set up with a hierarchy according to those with the highest, whatever count that they were able to obtain can essentially give orders to people with lower counts. And there are a few caveats to this, but not many. And if your count ever hits zero, because it can count up, it can count down. For the character who walks miles, it's not like at any time they drive it goes down. But for other people, like I just remember like one character's running a restaurant, and their count is about how many times they hear their food tastes good. So tastes good, food good, or count goes up. Tastes bad, count goes down. Some characters, it's not very clear on how their accounts descend, but it's very much an action show. It's really not about counting per se. That's just another aspect of the show instead of super front and center. It's very hard for me to say exactly what it's going to be about, as I've only seen one. I don't know if two establish anything a little bit better, but it seems characters who have combat-based counts and excel at those combat-based counts. Actually, I don't know if they get like a physical buff, but they're just almost godishly powerful. And I like this aspect. I wanted to kind of see more of it introducing like a lot of XYZ characters with like that whole counting mechanic, and just a little bit into the social structure of the world is kind of like what hooked me. Aside, and like the action's decent. It's not UFO table like level grade or anything, but it's for a combat series. It's your run of the mill combat series that has an actual interesting mechanic. It's just not like fight of the week kind of a thing. It's
on the Chunibyo scale. Where would you put it? It's just like maximum Chunibyo or like middle? Because like the counting thing sounds pretty stupid. So I
don't even
know.
know what you mean by the tuning BO thing, because it's I get you, but
what a 13-year-old would think is like really cool, but then when you're an adult, you're like, that was incredibly lame.
I'd say it depends on the combat. Like the count doesn't really give any person actual abilities. It's just like I said, a few of those who are around like aces of combat. They're literally called aces.
Does it obsess over like power levels a lot? Is it like
no, because it's again just a social standing. It can indicate how great you are at something, but it doesn't confer like having a high count doesn't make you like stronger than another person. But those who are stronger tend to have better counts, especially if their counts have to deal with combat. So it's not like a conferred power level through increased number kind of a thing, but but for some people it's like I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. The show is a little tiny bit on the H-tier side, so I wouldn't say like 13 is quite the strike zone for it. There's one of the actual protagonist of the show has like their count really close on like their inner thigh, and like at times the abyss needs to mess with the count, and it's constantly these hands that come out of the ground and like access the count forcibly, and it's just that's one of its cringy
That's
moments.
tasteful.
But yeah,
Okay.
but it doesn't do that often.
Just every episode.
I don't actually know if they do it every episode or not.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I just like this. Like I said, it was a really interesting fantasy element that I don't see done a whole lot, so I wanted to further pursue it.
Okay.
For no reason at all, I'm reminded of the assassins or whatever, the contractors from Darker Than Black, where they all had this remuneration thing where they had to like do something after they used their power. It's like, oh, I gotta pick up a flower off the ground and just fucking eat it or something. It was like never explained. That struck me as like very Chunibyo, but in a cool way.
So the animation studio for this, I just looked it up, is called Geek Toys.
Oh, Jesus.
They're relatively new because their first, this is only their third series. The first one was Rewrite Derrida, who leaps through time in 2018. Then they did Hensky last season, 2 seasons ago, and then Plunderer right now. So, but they are, yeah, I don't know. Don't know too much about this studio, so interesting.
I think. I did actually quite enjoy the Hensky though, even though that wasn't like an action show. So I think I don't know what the rewrite bit's about, but this might be the first action piece I've seen from them, which I'm not upset over. But it's no Dean. Like it's better than Dean, but you know what's that saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Chat says hello.
Woohoo.
That's true. Hey. So let's go ahead and go on to our next title, which it's going to be my title. Then we'll go to Sean's. What is this? Koisuru Asteroid. So this is
I like how you're the one picking it, and you go, "What is this?"
well, I don't know the Japanese name.
That is a
I
Japanese
watched
name.
them on Crunchyroll, so you know how they change the names and everything.
Oh, Asteroid in Love.
Yeah. So yeah, Asteroid in Love. So this was actually one of the first titles I picked up this season, and I'm really enjoying it. It's your typical cute girls doing cute things. These two meet as children, and they as you would assume was a guy or a boy, introduces stargazing and teaches the little girl all about, or it's not all about it, but starts talking to her about the stars and stuff. They decide that they want to name an asteroid, and that's going to be their goal together. But then they end up split up, and they never meet each other again until high school. And now they've met, and you actually find out the little boy was actually a little girl. So now these two girls have finally met up, and they get to be reunited to get their long dream of trying to find an asteroid. But they find out that the club that they joined that school for is closed down, but not 100% closed. It's actually kind of fused together with another club. And so now they have to do both club activities with each other. And it's just been very fun watching it, and a lot of the moments actually kind of remind me of, I think it was Yori Yuri. Like with the sister and her obsession, and some of the friends and how they act. So I get some of that vibe, and it makes me laugh, and it's just been pretty fun just for this, like I said, a cute girl doing cute things. But you also kind of learn a little bit, but you know, not that much. It's just there for me to have fun and just to enjoy them doing and have all that, you know, moe stuff going on. So what about you, Albert? This kind of seems like a title I thought you would watch as well.
Yeah, I'm watching it. So it's it's based on a four-panel manga, right? And a what is it called? Manga Kirara Time. Um, so it's basically going to come down to how well the whoever's doing the adaptation and this of the series is going to do, because it's hard to adapt a four-panel manga to a full length. Although there are others that do it, like Yuri Yuri is a four-panel manga. So yeah, I picked it up. I always check out a couple of moe shows, right? And this is definitely in that category. And whether it actually becomes more interesting, as of the first two episodes, it's it's a little weird, because you find out the backstory and then they get together and all that in the first episode. And the second episode, they have their kind of a club activity, right? Because the teacher who's in charge of the club really wants to have a barbecue. So they have this riverside barbecue during the day. They go and collect rocks and learn about rocks, because the two clubs that got joined was the astronomy club and the earth science club. So the earth science folks, they're all into rocks, geology. So you get a little bit of that, but it's pretty light currently. And then for the astronomy club, once night falls, they bring out the telescope and they start talking about, the telescope, how much it costs, tracking, because the Earth is rotating. Sorry, flat earthers, it's round and it's rotating.
Let them know.
So, yeah. So there's a little bit of information in there, and I kind of wish that they will expand upon more of that, and make it a little bit more serious, rather than right in the second episode you have fan service where the girls all go to the onsen, on the way back. I'm like, what? This is only the second episode. You're breaking the rules. You can't have an onsen until like episode 6 or 7. But whatever.
I thought Doga Kobo had gone soft, but no, they stepped it right up.
Yeah.
They could keep going. They could have like a fox lolly or some sort of child molester.
Yeah. So I was hoping that this is Doga Kobo going back to like non-lolly stuff, right? Which it is, and despite my repeated criticisms of them trying to push mainstreaming niche fetishes, and they do have good animation and they do have good comedic timing. So I was hoping it would be one of those. So I'm gonna have to watch a couple more episodes to decide which way it's actually going to fall. But based on the source material, which I have not read, but I'm hoping that more of the club activities and more of the science and appreciation of searching for something, that to striving to accomplish something, that comes through more than the weird Doga Kobo stuff.
Yes, Albert is yet to know what's in the stars for this show.
I thought
Exactly.
I thought you liked the fan service. Didn't you post the Ponzu?
The what? From where?
Remember the bread in the shape of?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, that was you. I thought that was
Yeah.
Albert. Because I thought I saw Albert posting a bunch of stuff, so I thought he did that.
Yes, but I did not. I did not post that.
That was hilarious. What did you think of it, Vincent?
I feel a little mixed about it so far. I think it's hard to put it. It's almost as if Doga Kobo is kind of a little bit off the track. Because Albert mentions about the difficulty of adapting full panel comic books into the full timing show, but they done it so well with the new game, or at least I think that they did really well. But ever since then, they seem to be a little bit off. it's almost like this show feels a little dull compared to others they put out before. I don't know whether then it's lacking either polish or just that design looks a little flat. It's hard to put my point to it. I mean, I like this cute girls doing cute stuff like everybody else does, so I'll probably keep on watching it for now. But don't think it's gone to the best to their ability. I mean, that's pretty much how I can put it.
All right. So I recommend everyone watch this. This is the anime of the year. So
No, no.
2020 decided already, huh?
yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title then. Next up we have Wait, did I see? Am I reading that? Oh yeah. Eizoken ni wa te wa desu na?
Keep your hands off that weird pronunciation, man.
Keep your hands up.
I don't even
as you
know
can.
what this is, so I don't even know the name.
I've only seen one episode, but I guess I can introduce it anyway. It's the new show from Masaki Iwasa and his entourage at Science Saru. A friend of mine saw this and said, "Hey, Sean, you need to watch this. They made a show just for you." And it's like if that crew did their own Shirobako, but as you would expect from them, it's not about like the rhythms of the studio anime production workflow. It's more about just like the creative process of making anime. So it follows some kids at school, and one of them's really good at like designing and drawing like backgrounds and stuff and like fantasy settings. And then another one's really good at drawing human figures and doing animation. And then they meet up and they're like, "Hey, we should get together and make anime." And then, like, as they're kind of conceptualizing stuff and, like, throwing things at the wall, it sort of does this, like, Millennium Actress thing where as they're talking about the fantasy world, they go into the fantasy world.
See, that's where I was going to stop you right here real quick and just say, to me,
Mm-hmm.
I know this literally isn't this type of a show, but it really reminded me of, and this is not to get you back, I thought of this ahead of time. Like, I tell this to other people. It reminds me a lot of the Chunin Bio show, because as these guys imagine what they want to animate, it kind of starts overtaking reality, and the viewer kind of knows it's not really happening. The story is just acknowledging it kind of weirdly, and characters move on. But like, we're talking like Chutukoi levels of like over visualization over reality here. Not that all Chunin Bio shows go that direction, but
Yeah, it did bring to mind Chutukoi a little bit as well. I don't have that much more to say about it because I've only seen the first episode, and there's like, what, 2 or 3 by now, probably. But it seems pretty cool. It's well designed. It's well animated. Like, the characters are endearing, like, instantly. So, like, outside of what it is, just in its conventional aspects, it seems like a pretty high-quality show. So I'm going to watch more of it.
yeah, I've actually only seen like an episode and a half, so I'm not very far into it myself. But I do appreciate like the banter of like a lot of the cast. You kind of have these two individuals, and you kind of have this like not animation interested like straight acting character who tries to reel in the other two and like set them on a track. But it is very much based.
Yeah, I kind of take her as like she's going to be the producer or something.
Yeah.
Straight man in a comedic routine. I think.
Yeah. So I did enjoy surprisingly a lot of what it was doing. Now, that kind of said, I still don't necessarily know where it's going. But from what I saw in episode 1 and the bit that I have seen in 2, it doesn't seem like it's in a bad direction at all. It's got a very good hook. It might not be for everyone, but I think if you were someone who I've heard this so many times. Whenever you hear about anybody who has been involved in like the production of something. They will say, like, almost unilateral, not universally, that you don't even like comprehend the conversations that are had about like how, you know, whatever character's room is going to be, because animation is mostly all like in the moment, but since you're designing it, you just kind of have to like, you have to decide who the person is to make their room. So there's lots of decisions that go into characterizing the individual and how that is portrayed in their room. And that's kind of what the show is getting at a lot of times. The two just start throwing together ideas. And I think if you're like an older school Ghibli fan, it'll speak to you a bit better. A lot of new age animation is more structured on the storyline and not like the visuals, but just keeping you entertained at the visual level alone. Where early in episode one, in this one, they kind of go back to the roots of, in this scene, it conveys this by doing it this way. And you can see it a lot in the conversations between two of the characters when they start combining their artwork and just extrapolating. And that's the interesting part of this show. At least so far. I don't know if it's going to keep that up, but I don't see why I wouldn't.
It's an interesting counterpoint to Shirobako, you know, which is very like nuts and bolts. Like, here's my position at this studio, here's my workflow, you know, and here's how my workflow connects with everyone else at the studio, and so on and so forth. Where this one's more about like the artistic process, the process of like conceiving and combining and executing on ideas, rather than like, here's my job, you know.
Yeah.
At this institution or something.
I mean, it appeared to borrow some of the bits from the Shirobako. It almost feels like one of the episodes in Shirobako when they were reminiscing about the early days of the animation studio, the bunch of guys in the 70s, just, you know, hatching things together. It almost has that feels to it, you know, just at a lot smaller scale, since there's only 3 girls, high school girls, trying to create an animation by themselves. But it feels as if they're daydreaming a lot of times, sort of half escapism, but then it's pretty much filled with the hopes and dreams, kind of a romanticizing, you know, forget about all the hardship that's gonna bite their asses, but they're daydreaming about how awesome, you know, this will be if we can create this kind of feel.
Yeah, I think the title of the show is also alluding to forecast. Not said in our synopsis thus far, but this club is kind of on rocky waters. One of the 2 members is pretty much their family knows they're interested in animation, and they absolutely do not want them to be involved with animation. The club that they started was already on like a technicality, and you know, with the title, if you read it in English, you just know something's going to happen. Like, the title kind of gives it away.
Mm-hmm. This show had a panel at the Anime NYC. They actually had an executive producer, and they had the showings of the first 2 episodes. Of course, it was a lottery system, and I missed out on that. So I was kind of kicking myself for not being able to attend it. But based on that reaction, I had a nagging feeling this was going to be a pretty good show to watch.
So it looks like I'm the only one missing out.
You should watch it. It's really good.
I'll have to do that then.
Yeah, we can discuss it at the end. But I mean, so far, seriously, this is the anime of the season for me, and it is, you know, Masaki Yuasa's love letter to anime creation. So it is based off on a manga, and I'm kind of curious about it, but I actually am enjoying the anime as is. So I don't really have the desire to go read the manga currently. Maybe afterwards, I'll go take a look to see, you know, how it was adapted and what they did with it. But so far, it's been spectacular, and I think I'm hoping they'll go in, like in Shirobako, there was a whole thing about 2D versus 3D and how much to bring in, and the changing workflow of anime. And there's some of that, like in episode 2, they find the old equipment of how anime used to be made fully 2D with cell images, and how you had to move the background with this machine and all this, right? And there's all of that is a love letter to anime creation of the past, but it's also mentioned that the one girl, Mizusaki, the actress or model, and her parents want her to become actress, right?
Mhm.
She mentioned something about, oh, this is a lot harder. Your hands get cramped. It's different from drawing on the tablet. So clearly, there is that understanding of it's not set in a world where anime is created in 2D fashion only.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping they'll go into some of that as time goes on. But yeah, and the OP is I love the OP. It's great. You should go check it out. There's a lot of goofy morphing that occurs, and it's just very catchy. And the ED is really nice too. Um, so yeah, all around recommend from me. Uh, if yeah, I guess the only people I wouldn't recommend is if you're just into like uh, if you don't really care about anime, if you don't care about the style of animation that Yuasa uses, it's a little bit off the mainstream. Um, but having said that, everyone should watch it.
I mean, it's not unapproachable. It's not like Kemonozume or like the most like visually abrasive thing he's ever made. I think like the characters are still appealing, but they're not like conventional looking, anime waifus or anything like that.
Right.
But they are like well designed and charismatic.
He
Yeah.
didn't want anyone to waifu his characters.
All right, I'll have to check that out. But if you guys are wondering what the old-fashioned animation was like, just watch the 6th episode of Golden Boy. Good representation.
That's true. That's a class.
Let's go ahead and go to the next title then. It's one of those. It's too long, so let's guess it's a light novel title.
Oh, you want me to say it? So
Itai no wa iya nano de bogyo. What is there?
You got this.
Ni, I lost where I'm at.
Kyokufuri
Kyokufuri shitai to
omoimasu.
omoimasu. Yes. First try.
Yeah. So, this is based on a light novel series, if you couldn't tell, and it's typically just shortened to bofuri. So bo from bogyo meaning defense, and furi is to put into or yeah. Basically, okay. So this is, despite its name and premise, this is not an isekai. It's not a subgenre which is trapped in a game, right? This is in fact more slice of life. This is in fact a moe show. This is in fact cute girls doing cute things, which in this case is playing a virtual reality MMO called, get this, New World Online. Okay, don't it's not Sword Art. Okay, so it's New
No.
World Online.
It's a lot like Second Life.
And they put on some helmet gear, VR gear with glove feedback or whatever. But apparently it's so advanced you can actually feel like pain. And so the premise is that this girl Kaede goes in because her friend Risa is saying, "Hey, you should play this with me." Oh, but I can't because right now I'm kind of grounded. I have to pass my exams before my mom will let me play. So Kaede goes in, makes up a character, and she's kind of a noob. So she goes, I've got all these points I could put in stats. I'm just gonna put it on vitality, which is your defensive, okay, um, skill, stat point. Sorry, stat point, not skill. Okay, and so she puts all of it in there, and then she goes, does noob things, fighting some very low level monsters. And because no one would, in their right mind, put all their stat points in VIT, uh, she kind of breaks the game. So you acquire things, skills in the game by accomplishing things. So unknown to her, because the little rabbit is attacking her, rabbit monster is attacking her, but it doesn't hurt at all, and she's not taking any damage because she put everything into defense, right? She's just playing around for like an hour being attacked by this rabbit. And one of the requirements for a skill is being attacked for an hour straight with not taking any damage. So she starts breaking the game basically. And so she starts adventuring. She keeps putting all her skill points or all her stat points into VIT or defense, and that's it, right? So because she becomes an extreme example, she is able to accomplish things that other players can't. She gets some unique items, which plays off of her vitality or defense skill. And she becomes like a walking fortress. She's not very good at attacking, but she can't be hurt. And as the game goes on, right, her friend joins her. They go on adventures. They have guilds. Uh, the the people on the game creation side is like, oh my god, we weren't expecting anyone to do this, so we've got to fix this. And they start fixing things like, okay, we'll limit her ability, the special abilities that she got, to only 10 times a day instead of infinite. But because of that, she starts, doing other things. She still end up kind of breaking the game, right? So it's completely moe. It's completely slice of life. It's just cuteness. So if that's all that you're interested in, a cute girl doing cute things, then yeah, I would recommend that you check it out. But it is not isekai. Okay, so here's just a from episode 2, where she's eating a bug, because you can get things by eating things, or by yeah, that's one way to acquire skills.
Although I think she's probably the only to try it.
Yeah, pretty much. She does things because she doesn't really know how you should be playing, and so ends up breaking the game.
Yeah,
So
I completely agree with that.
So have you seen? Is that like what you're talking about all the way up to episode 3? Because I think I've only seen 2.
Yeah, I've only seen 2 as well. That he's definitely talking about stuff in 3.
No, this happened in 2.
That happened in 2, but the stuff of like limiting her was.
Oh yeah, that
probably
happens
definitely
later. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've read the manga, which is nowhere near where the light novel is, but I mean I know how this works, right?
Yeah,
So
I
at least-
could. Good.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
just saying I could definitely see its light novel roots. If you've pretty much like even watched like that time I got reincarnated as a slime. A lot of the skill and ability progression mirrors what you usually see in shows like that. Even that not so good one from a little bit ago. What was that last one that the guy fell into the bottom, had the crystals, had to eat the things, and he
Oh,
was
Jesus.
got the skills. Yeah,
Ari Fureta.
yeah. There we go.
That's an awesome book.
So like I see that concept, and it's not that I don't like it or anything. It's just very fitting for the genre, and I like how they applied it here because it was very obtuse. You would almost say that this show, or like Infinite Dendogrammed, better than Infinite Dendogram, because I don't necessarily like that one. But again, with how the skill system just worked out here for this character, one of the points of humor that I kind of have, and the only thing where like it kind of breaks the world that this set up for me is like at the end of every episode, you see this almost like forum chat just sprawl by way too quickly of like players discussing what's going on here. And it's hard to catch if with the translation because again, it's happening so fast. You would the
Just
translation only has like 2 posts per whatever,
yeah.
and you really need the chance to read it all. Like they need to just scribe over it. But it's just so kind of weird because even like a character at one point just said, "Oh, just do things the way I did," and then you'd be like me, and a character said, "I'll do things my own way," and I enjoyed that. But like I know in any kind of a game like this, once someone has like trudged a path to somewhere, you would always have people like copying that success. There was a little bit of a caveat here with like a winning of a item that I think if you like win the dungeon for a first time would be like the unique take here, but that action scene in like season 2 really kind of shocked me. I didn't really expect it from a show like this.
Hmm.
It wasn't top notch, but it was just well done. Like
Yeah.
like that underwater battle thing.
Season 2?
Episode
Season 2.
2.
You said season 2.
Did I? My bad.
Yeah. So I mean, it's yeah, it's just what it is, and I think if you're interested in like something that's in the game world kind of thing, I mean, Infinite Dendrogram is not good. Okay,
No, I
it's
wasn't saying it
pretty
was.
it's pretty animation, but it's not good, and
I just
so
said it like took that premise a little bit better than it takes its premise
So,
yeah,
of
it doesn't
infinite
take
like
itself too seriously,
actually,
right? So,
you know,
what's that?
I just want to say something about this show real quick. Because, like, I'm kind of happy Albert spoiled the third episode a little bit. Because I was actually getting irritated with the show a little. And was kind of questioning some of the stuff. Like, how did she get these resists so fast? Is there a lot of time going by that we're not seeing between her getting these resists or certain skills or certain things? Or what's going on? And I was kind of getting upset. Like, this is just dumb to me. But now that I know that it's because of a broken game, I can kind of believe it. And if they're going to be doing these changes, I may still continue watching it. But that was one thing that was kind of bugging me. And also, what Nick mentioned was those people making posts. I'm like, how did they know what was happening? They did. She was all in there alone. So how did they know what happened during those fights?
I think some well like a lot of it was someone's like I just happened by this character and like that was a conversation of episode 1 and episode 2 in this combat thing it was being broadcast like a lot of the players who died and ducked out were like watching through the screen
Yeah,
and whatnot
but I mean, like, to me, it was like some of it just didn't make sense to me. So
I get you.
no, I'll just have to recheck and see what some of that stuff was. But like, at first, I was kind of getting really. I'm like, oh, come on, why? She's really getting stuff because of that, or is there actually a lot of time passing that we're not just noticing? But now
Enough
that
to
I
get
know it's
to level
because the
20.
game is broken, but now it
Well,
makes a little more sense.
She broke it.
So, but also that other show you were talking about, the I don't even know what was it called?
Infinite Dendrogram.
Yeah, that one. I actually like the manga because they actually write down all these really cool puns because of the bear guys talk, and it's so hilarious to read. But they didn't do any of that in in the anime or in the subtitling.
To go off on a light tangent here, this actually reminds me of a time my friends and I did play like an RPGS game on the Xbox, and there were 4 different stats you could level up and 4 players on the screen, and we all decided to take like one stat and only level that one stat. And I forget exactly how it worked, but you had magic, strength, HP, and speed, and like magic was the worst, and that was what I chose. So like lost every time when we had to PvP each other. But you had this like one dude that would zip around the screen, one guy a lot of could one shot anybody. Other guy, it was kind of funny. Magic sucked, but it was kind of interesting to have this character kind of take on that premise. And I wouldn't say that we broke that game. Just when we would PvP between us, it was kind of you could see the unfairness of the system. But
All right, let's go to the next title. Card Captor Sakura.
Yay!
Just kidding. Uh, wait, what is this title? Oh,
Inspector.
Kyoku Suri. Or Suiuri?
what?
It's a
Kyoko Suiri.
Yeah, Suiri. So, this one actually I'm really excited for. I like this one a lot. Okay.
Take it away, Vinny.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's I just picked this one out of whim and figure I'll just watch it and how it goes. And the first thing struck me as okay, she looks a lot like a card captor Sakura. The head, the cane, the way she looks, and la 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 la. Then it turns out she was a lot more interesting. So premise is that she was sort of spirited away when she was 11, and in exchange for her right eye and left leg, she became the mediator of the two worlds. So she became the mediator that can communicate between the Kyokai and the human world. So they kind of worship her as a sort of a goddess in a way. And then she confesses love to this guy who she just calls him like Kuro because that's his first name. Then there's a little twist in a way that this guy is what most of the Kyokai is very deathly afraid of. And then it kind of comes to the light that towards the end of the first and more so in the second episode that he actually ate some of the Kyokai. So that's why they're afraid that he's gonna eat them. So every time they see him, they kind of scatters away. But since she's very much infatuated with him, they kind of goes into sort of tag along way. It's in a way it's very much of a mystery thriller type of series. Not too much actions, but it's about crime solving mysteries. First episode was very much self-contained, just taking care of this big old bad spirit in a building. But the second episode, which I didn't expect, that it was actually turning into two parts where second episode ended at the cliffhanger, and then third episode is gonna do the rest of the conclusion as to this murder mystery that seems very simple at first, but supposedly has a more plot twist to it than what's led to believe. Um, it reminds me of the series from a couple of years ago about this girl who's very much obsessed with the collecting bones. I forgot what the title was. There's this girl who likes to collect all kinds of bones, and there's a assistant boy who's in very much in love with
Oh,
her.
yes. Sakurako-san.
Yeah, that's the one. It reminds me a bit of that, it's sort of a gloomy tone and mood, and there seems to be that's nearby all the time. I mean, I never read the book. I know there's a book available in the store, so I don't know how this is gonna turn into, but so far I'm very much enjoying it.
Yeah, I heard from another person that they actually kind of looked at it on a whim, and it's actually kind of interesting. So I might check it out later.
I did actually watch only the first episode so far, and much like Vinny was saying there, it, it it had a lot of depth to it, in my opinion. The first half of the episode started a little bit goofy, kind of about a character who had a one-sided love for someone that they kind of met in a hospital, and it just kind of got deeper than that. The conversations had, again, just a level of depth to them, alluding to possibly the mystery aspect of the show. But you kind of come to find out that one of the things about the character is she was literally forcibly taken into this kind of yokai world when she was, I think, at the tender age of like 11. I guess they noticed that how they could figure an 11-year-old human was like smarter than anyone else. Who knows? But they asked her to become their, like, I want to say god of wisdom,
Yeah,
and
that's the term they use.
yeah, they. I don't know if they kind of did it or not, but they actually she went on when she was older to say that in various, I don't know if it's traditions or folklore, people who are missing, say, like a limb or an appendage of sorts, are closer to divinity. And when she became the god of wisdom at, say, the tender age of 11, she literally, I think, lost one of her legs and one of her eyes. And that just, again, brought depth to the character because she was kind of talking about her past as go look this up in the newspaper article and you'll see this happen if I'm lying. Do you think that I've gone crazy because of trauma, or that what I'm saying is kind of legit? And the way it kind of blends the yokai into the story with the depth of the two characters, um, one being feared by yokai, the other being a mediator of the yokai. I don't know if we super clear. I'm just saying, she literally acts as not like a judge, jury, and whatever, but she is able to act as a third party, like kind of like how we have over here in, say, like the U.S., how you have like almost like friends of the court, so to speak, where they kind of look at what's going on. They are an expert in that field, and they attempt to help mitigate the right thing with what they think is the right thing to do. And that's largely kind of what's going on in this show. She has a little bit of say amongst the yokai, and she just tries to absolve conflicts that arise amongst them, but with just helpful not advice, but just morality, so to speak. And that's kind of what I saw in episode 1. I'm not sure exactly the direction all the rest of it is going to go, but it just kind of surprised me, like with how kind of dark the story was for, like, say, an anime. It's not super dark, but it's dark enough.
It sounds like the rest of the series is going to be like kind of mystery because it's in the mystery genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. It's only
There
going
are
to be 12 episodes.
mystery stuff this season.
Yeah. Looks like it's a pretty long running manga. There's like, I see all the way up to 10 volumes. But it was a really fun show. I really enjoyed it. I kind of had the same opinion as Vincent when he posted that she reminded me a lot of Sakura from Cardcaptor Sakura. So I had that big vibe as well. So, and as I started watching it, just the mystery alone kept me entertained enough that I can keep on watching this. And overall, the quality doesn't seem to have changed too much. So I think if it stays where it is, or if it doesn't get any worse, like some shows do, I'll probably really enjoy the show a lot.
I mean, if Hanako has the look, but it lacks the depth, I think this is polar opposite. It doesn't have the prettiest look, but it definitely has more depth to it
Yeah.
that wants to keep you engaged.
But it's kind of funny that they did kind of add that romance
Hmm.
aspect into it, because just being pure mystery and having the yokai would be really, really dark. But adding that romance gives you that brief pause in between to kind of give you that relaxation as you're watching the show. So it's not 100% serious that you're sitting there going, oh man, what did I just watch? But more
There's
or less,
also, oh, sorry.
yeah, but more or less you can have that moment where like, oh, that was pretty good, and because it was still interesting enough with the mystery, but you had that little chuckle in between because of the romance aspect of the girl. and the boy.
Yeah, I don't think it's just going to be like not like a rom-com refresh moment. There also seems to be humor in introductions of yokai as well. Like some of them also contribute to the humor while not adding to the rom-com nature of the show.
Yeah,
So like
but
it's not just going to be diverse in rom-com moments, is what I mean. Not
yeah,
that it is a rom-com.
I enjoyed the comedy with the rom com more than I did with the yokai. I would
I
say,
get you.
but I see what you're saying there. But this is one show I would kind of really want to recommend to some of my friends that even if they're not into serious shows like this, I would like to at least try it out because to me this is actually really good, or at least it starts off really good. I would have to see how it goes later on, but I hope it stays with the quality it has, so it can be a high recommendation. Well, let's go to another really serious show. Okay,
It's not as serious.
Majika
Goddamn.
Madoka, the side story. Oh my god,
Oh, your God, what?
this is just terrible.
Terrible. All right, so
I've already gone through all this story playing the game.
I actually didn't get through the whole story of the game, but that's something I wanted to point out. Is I played a little bit of the app game. I fell off of I don't know like 3 months ago or something, maybe even longer. And I'm a little familiar with the story that this is going to be telling. Now, one of the things that I wanted to put on or to point out ahead of time is this animated TV series is not following the app game specifically. It's just kind of lightly based off of it. And for example, in the story of the app game, the original cast of the Madoka Magica was integrated into its story. It was not part of the Madoka Magica main story work that we had because say Homura wasn't like she was innocent, just became a magical girl, Homura, and not like I tried to say Madoka too many times, Homura. So I think they've written them out of Magia Record Maho Shoujo Madoka Magica Gaiden, which is side story in English. So I also think they wrote out a lot of other characters as well. I think it's going to follow a rather select core cast of the mainest of mains from, say, the app game. I don't think like any event characters are going to be here. Not all of the variety of cast is going to be here, even part of the main game. But I think it's going to follow a very slim amount of core cast, and that's kind of the other question that I had. If you write out um, the involved Magica characters, like the core cast from Madoka Magica, how are they going to alter the story? I don't think they were super important to the story, but I don't think they have to follow exactly what the app game laid out in its storyline as well. Largely, it's going to be a story of this one city called Kamihama, I believe, that was it it started something odd about it formed, and that's in the cities around, perhaps even the rest of the world, who knows, who cares, started noticing a drying up of witches. Like witches became rarer. It was kind of hard to source your grief seeds, but there was this rumor of this city that had tons of witches, although the rumor didn't also include that the witches were way stronger than normal witches. But it largely appears to be a story of what I believe to be the wish of either a character or a core cast of characters to make an alternative grief seed through this witch-like rumor system. So, as you've heard a lot in anime, a lot of times, like in Bakemonogatari, where yokai or whatever were enforced to act a certain way, when a rumor starts up in this city, if it gains enough validity, it kind of becomes real, and it has this not quite witch, but witch-like mechanic that enforces the rumor. And through this mechanic is how the alternative to a grief seed works. I don't know exactly how the story is going to resolve, but I think we are going to have a resolution. I didn't know if the app game actually resolved the story with a proper ending, since app games tend to update and run for the heck ever. They might have ended it, and then you just continue like event-esque side stories. But I didn't get to the end of that one, so I couldn't tell you.
So, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but in the game, weren't you supposed to be Cube?
Yeah, that's your character was the young Kyubey, and in the game, a lot of times the main character Iroha asks the young Kyubey questions, and you're like given two dialogue choices, and you kind of respond. But yes, you are the young Kyubey in the app game.
Yeah. So I was wondering how they were going to do that, and then now I know that you're not. It's not from Cube's point of view, which is kind of sad. That would be kind of cool. But there's only 2 episodes of this out right now, right?
I believe 3. I didn't watch the third, but I think the third just came out.
Before Albert slides away from that image, I will just make the criticism that I don't think the character designs are good or as good as original Madoka.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, just look at them. They don't look that great. It's like the one with the spear is like the only cool looking one as far as I recall. And the rest of them just kind of seem like B tier rejected designs from the original show or something. I'm kind of surprised by the show, and I'm surprised and not surprised. I'm surprised because it's directed by Gekidan Inukuri, which is the duo that did all the like Witch World like abstract cutout animation from other Shaft things. And I was thinking, well, maybe they can inject some flavor into it, but they don't. It's very paint by numbers, like visually, and story-wise, it seems very paint by numbers. At least they're not extending original Madoka, because I think like those characters and that story and that scenario is cashed out. But
I don't know. Wasn't the original Madoka supposed to continue a little bit at the very least?
No. I mean, it kind of ended in a weird place after the third movie, so...
Well, no, I just meant, like, even at the end of the TV series, it's like, oh, the witches are gone, but these new things came along. And
Well, I think it's like, if you interpret Madoka as like a Lovecraftian horror tale, which I kind of do, that it's something in the ode of that genre, of like there are cosmic forces greater than us and we're trapped in the battle, between them, and there's nothing we can do because we're just these lowly humans. It ends in a draw. It ends with Madoka ascending to godhood and then changing the scenario a little bit, but it's still kind of a draw.
I get
And
that.
I feel like within that genre of Lovecraftian horror, that's about as happy of an ending as you can get. Is it ends in a draw. So
I mean, I agree. I
at
just
that
meant-
point, I'm like, okay, that's the end of the story. You don't have to add more on top of that.
No, you don't have to. But...
To comment on Sean's paint by numbers, I think it's probably because of the game. Because at a glance, you need to tell what elements they are while you're playing the game to do your advantages over the enemy.
Oh.
Yeah.
The blue's water, the green's the earth, the
Okay.
purple's darkness. So I think they have those colors because of it's easier to tell the elements while you're playing the game rather than having to remember everything or check out the cards.
What's pink?
Light,
Light,
like Madoka.
Orange is fire?
yes.
Oh.
It's also like story-wise, and there's not really Gekidan Inukuri's fault, because they're just like dealing with what they were handed, but it also feels paint by numbers, and that like, okay, it's a magical girl genre thing. We need to assemble a team of magical girls, and I guess some of them are going to have conflicts, so that can like drive the plot for a few episodes. Like I was kind of zoning out, like watching this show, like as the girls were conflicting and then battling and then crying at the end, and you get some cheap catharsis and roll the credits. And it's okay, I think I'm gonna step off this train, and then post credits, mommy appeared. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm in for one more.
I didn't get to episode 3. I did watch 2, so I don't know if that was in 3 or not. But I was gonna say that I actually thought they did a really good job. 'Cause with the app game, you are very narrative driven. You have like 2D animated 2D versions of the characters driving the plot along, but you don't have animation. You don't have the set piece backgrounds, the other aspects driving along the story. And in episode 1, I thought they really did a decent job with depicting the story outside of its app game constraints. But I do see kind of where you're coming from. I don't think it told the story of, it had to kind of hurry along to the two friends fighting for the first rumor kind of a thing. And that was to the constraint of the story of the app game. And I think they could have narratively driven that one a little bit better, but I can see where you're coming from with it being very abrupt. And
I think what I'll say about like the original Madoka is that it didn't feel safe. It didn't feel paint by numbers. It felt like sinister, shocking. Anything can
Yes.
happen, and this doesn't capture that. Is basically what I'm
no,
saying.
I think so. I agree with you.
So I think rather than the dread of life and stuff, this one's more of the mystery of like what's going on. Why
And
is
I
her
think-
memories, or what has happened with Yui, or what's going on, rather than it's your life and death situation.
Well,
Yeah, the
I
mystery
think-
the mystery is vaguely interesting. Like I'll give it that. Both
Yeah,
of the mystery of the city itself and the mystery of like the girl who vanished from existence.
It's definitely closer to, say, a psychological drama or than a tragic one. But I do think later, once that whole rumor mechanic goes closer to full swing, if I can at least spoil a small little bit, what happens with the app game is there is a society, and not a society, but a following of specific magical girls that are almost like the Illuminati, but not quite. They don't control society, but they're controlling the rumor aspect of this. It is within their desire to keep the rumors going on because they see it as the alternative grief seed and the salvation of magical girls. But I do think this is where your catharsis comes in. Continuing the rumors has its own expense per rumor. And I think that's where the ethical dilemma is kind of going to arise. So it kind of has to get to the introduction of that underground society of kind of like quasi magical girls who are perpetuating and protecting these witch-like rumors.
Okay, well, I'm in for one more, so
Yeah, I mean,
it's got that long.
don't
to, like,
watch it on that account, but I think
Yeah.
to get to that point to introduce some of this other conflict.
I've watched up to them completing one arc, and then I'll stick around to see what the next arc
Yeah.
setup is going to be.
I mean, that's at least
At
at
least.
the very least what the app game did. I'm not sure about it. I haven't gotten that far, but if they stick with the app game, there is a feather garb underground following of magic, kind of like quasi magical girls. Like some of them are, some of them aren't in the app game. They all are going to be in the anime, sure, but yeah.
All right. So let's go from magical girls to something more realistic here. With,
Nekopara?
Nekopara, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Cat girls. This seems more something in our realm of happening. So Nekopara. Let's see who's seen this. What? Just Vincent and Nick? Oh. So Nekopara TV. What can I say about it? It's seems to.
How deep are you in the Nekopara hole? Have you played the games? Have you watched OVAs?
So I participated in part of the what was it, Kickstarter for the OVA.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the first game for free, and I played that into completion, and was actually kind of disappointed in the game. The gameplay, not the game, maybe the gameplay, because
Okay.
unlike other visual novels, there's not many choices. All you're doing is just clicking and reading the whole story. So there's no options, like, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Or are you going to say
So it's
this
like-
or are you going to say that? You're just
It's more of a
reading
kinetic novel.
Yeah, you're just reading a whole book with cute girls saying stuff and doing things. So that's the only gripe I had about the game. And then I got the second one, but I never finished it, just due to time. And so I think that's as far as I've gotten as far as the games. I don't know if anyone else has played or gotten further. But to me, it seems like this is at least after the first game, because the first game talks about how the girls get their bells. Or even the anime, the OVA, the girls got their bells and such. But I don't know how it fits into any of the other games, or if it doesn't at all, or if it fits in between them. But
See, that kind of disappoints me.
overall, the quality is not that great. So it's kind of sad that I can't say you got really cute cat girls. It's you got half decent cat girls. You might as well just watch that interspecies reviewers for cat girls if you want.
No, their hands are worse.
But
Objectively speaking, that interspecies reviewer show looks better than Nekopara, the TV show, which is kind of struggling.
so yeah, and it's also kind of I guess you just watch if you're watching it, you're probably just watching it for their interactions and how they're living their life, because their interactions are kind of funny, especially with the little sister when she comes in, and all the cat girls and their different personalities. But now we got this new problem with this new cat girl that's disappeared, and that seems to be the whole first arc, I guess, where Chocolate has found this either lost or runaway cat girl, and now they're going to try to help find her home or find her the owner and see what happens from there. But not much else to say about this. I was really hoping for something better, but
All right, so let me cut in saying that I've had no Nekopara experience. I have not played the kinetic novel, as I'm going to call it from now on. Nor did I watch the OVA. I meant to, but I haven't. I was actually hoping that they would go into the Bell thing a little bit more here, because I have not been exposed to any of the prior content, but that's just a side gripe I just now realized, because you said you don't think they were going to go that route, but it doesn't matter. So I want to say that this anime kind of immediately sets up this premise of, gone are your notions of cats. Cats are not this domesticated four-leg animal. They are pretty much, girls with the cat ears and the cat tails, hence cat
Cosplay.
girl. But that is the cat in this world. There is no actual animal counterpart. It's just, these are cats. Everyone accepts them as cats. That's what cats always were. Yes, they can kind of speak the language, and if they're on the higher end of functionality, cook and have a job. But I will say I've not seen a male cat in this show. Not that I want to, just I kind of wonder how the species perpetuates, because somebody pointed out online that all of the cat girls align with an actual age of a cat. Most of them are a year or 9 months old. That's the age of these cat girls. Chocolate and Vanilla are 9 months. The white-haired one is a year. And I kind of I know this, it's not within the scope of this show, but I just kind of want to know, at what growth rate do these things have for 9 months to be a 12-year-old?
Do they pass away at the year 17 or something?
Yeah, I mean, since they are supposed to be a step in for cats, I'm guessing so. And one of the side notes,
did they only live to 12 if you let them outside?
One of the side notes is all of the cats that belong to the protagonist of this show typically have a name of a food item. You've got chocolate, vanilla, or chocolate. She's called Vanilla. There's a maple. There's I believe, an azuki, which cinnamon, coconut, and there's more. But I just got a kick out of them actually having cat ages, and like I said, I kind of want to know how that works in this world, but I don't want them to show it. I just want to know how it works.
You know that I never thought about. I mean, not that I know a damn thing about Necopara, but I never thought about that. It sounds like a deal with the devil. Like you can have cat girls, but you can't have cats. And cat girls are only going to live to the age of 17 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like this show could have much more of like a plastic memory type tragedy behind it, but it's
Yeah,
probably not going to go that route.
yeah.
Nope.
I think I'll split the difference and take the cats from like Monster Hunter. You know, like the palicos. Like they're like normal cats, but they can do useful things and they can cook delicious meals.
But you have to be careful because in this show they still have a lot of their cat traits. So, you know, you wave something in front of them, they start chasing it, or the laser pointers and stuff like that.
Yeah, they are cats, just
So,
anthropomorphic, can
but,
speak, can do stuff.
Yeah, sometimes they'll vomit on the carpet.
they actually have to go through a lot of training for that, actually, because the little sister's the one that trained them all. Because they don't just start speaking; they have to be trained to speak it.
Yeah, I lightly figured as much, but still, like
But
to have the
it's-
potential where our current cats don't.
Sometimes they'll walk into a corner and just like howl at the top of their lungs in the middle of the night.
No, but like in the animation, because I don't know if you watched it or not, but even when a character was going, as a chore to run to the store and buy something, she would go on a shortcut. So she would like climb through holes in the fences and walk along the stone barriers between like housing and walk on rooftops. Like they are cats, just humanoid, and can talk and do things if they're smart enough. And apparently 9 months old to a year or two.
In the winter, they'll curl up in front of like an air vent or a radiator all day.
but,
Totally true cat girl facts.
Yep. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I don't have set up.
Is what?
Let me just go and pick a title real quick.
What could it be?
This one here, Darwin's Game.
Okay.
So Darwin's Game. I think there's 3 episodes out, and it came out with a double feature first episode, around 45 minutes. And I don't know. This one's somewhat interesting, but I don't know how it's going to go. It seems to be one of those deadly phone app games.
Almost,
shows.
yeah, battle royale style kind of a thing.
So,
Is this genre called survival game?
Perhaps.
Is that like the
perhaps-
kind where it's like there's 12 of you and you all get a special power, but only one can survive? You know, like
no.
Holy
It's a
Grail
little
War
bit
type thing.
different. It's
Yeah.
more like you're invited to via your smartphone via an app download, and then like it tangibly affects you. You're given a power, but then you partake in turf war-esque battles that have your life as a stake. But there's not like a set amount of individuals. It could, we've seen it get new users on the fly, kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you're sent to the app, and once you log into the app, you're automatically basically into the game, and there's no way out. And in this game, they give you a special ability which they call a sigil, and it gives you some kind of it's different for every single person. And as you're playing, I guess
I don't think it's different from every single person. I think it does follow like set archetypes where they've seen other people have abilities before, and you're just a user of that ability.
so. As you log into the game, I guess other players can challenge you, and when they challenge you, it's basically a death game. The first one to kill the other within the set time wins. But there's also this other aspect that if you don't want to fight, you can actually just run away, and if you can run away enough, You also get a score depending on how you perform, like how you can dodge, how you run away, or prevent yourself from dying. Also gives you a score versus the guy trying to kill you and how much he hurts you. And at the end of that set time that you have to kill each other, it'll then go to just the scoreboard. And if whoever wins gets points and the other person just loses points, and I guess there's nothing else that happens to them. It's only if you die, I believe, or if you run out of points that you basically die. The game will then teleport your body, and you're gone from the world.
But it's kind of interesting because like whenever you die, your body gets like teleported away in like almost voxels or something, and like it also takes out whatever like it's not just you it's removing as it throws boxes around whatever section of you it's taking, like parts of whatever you're like cement structure you're on or whatever gets spirited away with you. So like when people are dying in this game, you'll see this like weird voxel cutout shape in like the ground for where one of the users used to be.
Yeah, so the show's following Kaname, the main protagonist, where he gets the game from a friend that's being chased down, and he's looking for help, and he doesn't have anyone else to ask for help, so he sends it to his friend to try to get him to help him. But he ends up dying before the friend even gets the message. So
I didn't realize that. Like, how awesome is that? Here, friend, come play this death game with me.
To save me, basically. But then he dies, so now Kaname has the game, and now he's into it, but he has no idea what this game is at all. So he's thrown into this basic death game without any knowledge, without knowing the rules, without knowing what the objective is, and he just wants out. And he doesn't want to kill anyone right now, I'm going to say right now. He just wants to live a peaceful life, but you do find that there are some perks with this game. So like the points you get can be transferred into money. So there's that aspect, and there's also, because of the powers you get, that some of the people who are into this game are abusing their powers for other means. So there's a lot of other stuff going on, but right now we just into the third episode. We're into this event, and it seems that this game has really powerful superpowers going on, because in the middle of this event, a sound was played, or something, some kind of vibration was played in Shibuya, and all the people that weren't participants just, I gotta go home, and they all started walking away and leaving the game area. So there's something really big going on, and I don't know if we'll ever find out about that. Maybe we will, as Kaname's trying to figure out how to get out of this death game, but it seems that in this game you also can create clans or teams and parties. So it's not a battle royale. So there are people that can team up with each other, but it seems pretty interesting for right now, and the action is somewhat decent. But yeah, I'm probably going to keep on watching it, and it seems pretty entertaining for right now. What about you, Nick?
I think I've actually only watched the first episode so far, as with like a lot of my other shows. But yeah, from the get-go, I tend to enjoy shows like this, where it's kind of, I forget if you alluded to this well or not. I was looking at other stuff, but in this app game, as I was trying to say, I think some sigils are kind of known amongst other users, and the only reason I got that like kind of idea is when they were analyzing, other users can kind of view, I guess, through their smartphone aspects of combat. And when they were looking in on a fight, they realized this guy using this ability that they've never seen before, and they're like, "Oh, it must be a unique new ability." And I can't say that I understand the constraints of it right now, but it just seems to be I could make items that I'm thinking of pop up like in my hand, which and the protagonist is actually kind of painted as very level-headed. He's someone who is very conscientious of his environment, and um, he's very practical. So even when thrown into a difficult situation, he seems apt enough to, to play that idealistic protagonist role where you kind of strategy with using your ability well out of dangerous situations, and turn tables on like bad or like against the odds. And I just kind of I don't know like what in the end what ultimately their team will end up looking like, but it ticked a lot of the boxes of stuff that I like to watch, so I'm in.
So, Vincent, did you stop this, or you just didn't have time to watch a lot of it, or?
I'm on the fence about it. It's not exactly my kind of a show. It just tends to not like ones that kind of turns into what looks like a dead game. So I might watch a second episode and make up my mind as to keep on watching it or not, because I watched the first episodes for now. So to be seen.
All right. Anyone else got anything they want to cover?
I do like how the fact that it's like called Darwin's Game, like survival of the fittest. Like it's kind of obvious, but when Bushido Road got like a card game called Luck and Logic, I was just like, oh, like cheers to you, man. That's like a perfect card game name, because you got to be lucky and it's got to make sense. Like it's perfect for a card game. Darwin's Game is pretty darn good for a survival of the fittest type battle game. Just saying, yo.
If you ask me to direct Darwin's Game, I would put 12 students on an island, and they have to catalog all the different bird species.
Shame on
and
you.
prove the theory of evolution.
All right.
I'm wondering about ID Invaded or id Invaded or whatever. Like I think I only skimmed through one episode. I'm like, this looks kind of cool. It also seems kind of insufferable. Is anyone watching this thing? Is it all right?
Yeah, I am.
I'm intending to, but I'm only one up in so far.
I mean, I
Same
can
here.
cover it briefly.
So here's the title card for ID.
Oh, it's id.
Id.
I mean, the thing that turned me off is, you got that like detective main character who's like, I'm the master detective, and there is a mystery before me, and I will solve it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, dude.
It kind of follows that. So it starts off. I'll spoil a little bit. It starts off with this guy that you see here. Looks like a character from Fairy Tale, but he wakes up in a room, and then his body starts to fly apart, and he starts freaking out. But he realizes he can put himself back together, but not completely. There's some missing pieces, and he doesn't really remember how he got there or what's happening. But he knows his name is Sakaido. He's a super sleuth, basically, like Sherlock Holmes, and he has a history of what's going on. And so when he comes upon, the world is fractured, right? So you have no idea what the hell's going on. And he comes upon a dead body that he calls Kaeru-chan, and he knows that there's a mystery to be solved here, and he needs to do it. And so you're at this point totally confused because you have no idea what's going on. And it turns out that he's in some sort of digital simulation. And in this world, it's almost like Minority Report, like this digital tech, but it's not about precognition. It's about delving into the killer's mind. So there's a serial killer on the loose. These are detectives, and they've made a digital construction of the killer's psyche, but because it's incomplete, right? You can't completely digitize a mind, especially since the killer's on the loose, which brings another question. I'm like, wait, how are they constructing this from what? Um, so they're after a killer that is apparently drilling holes in people's heads, and there's been like 5 confirmed victims with 2 other potentially missing people. And the police agency also has a field agents who go around and collect things. And it turns out they're using this weird device called wakamusubi that allows them to pick up cognition particles. So this is like part Minority Report, part Psychopaths, right?
Nice. I thought you were going to go there.
There's some sort of weird uh, particle that this device is able to detect and capture. And because of that, they can reconstruct partially the killer's mind. And it's not necessarily the truth, but what the killer thinks is the truth, right? So you need someone to go in to this construction, piece together the clues, and so they can try to find and stop the killer. And so that's what the detective Sakaido starts to do. But then, there appears to be complications because as they get closer, the field agents, are detecting, oh, there's, definitely something going on. There's a threat level, and in the construction world, Sakaido discovers, well, we're all completely fragmented except for Kaoru-chan, and he discovers that therefore the killer is actually also partial, and he's hiding in the construct, right? But then another person appears. This is episode 1,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of their field agents. So then they're like, oh crap, she's now a target, which means, right, the killer has identified her and is after her. Because not necessarily everyone in here, the victims, are victims past tense. They're potential victims because that's how the killer thinks.
But I'm kind of lost. I must have missed something. Is who in this construct is actually a real person diving into it?
The detective is the only
detective
real
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else is psyche.
Yeah, because he was sliced up too. So I gotta
Yeah.
ask.
So the reason I picked this up is completely on a whim because I thought, this image that you see, like this jigsaw, was kind of interesting. Then I went online and looked it up. And so this is a anime original, which I always like to try to check out and support. This is not written by anyone, like it's not based on light novel, it's not manga, it's original. It's also the writer is um, Otaro Maijo, who is not a light novelist, or an anime screenwriter, but he's an actual mystery novelist, right? So my hope here is that this series is a little bit more interesting. This feels like something that should be on Noitamina, right? But it isn't. And my hope is this is more of an interesting mystery sci-fi concept along the lines of like Psychopaths, uh, and better constructed mystery than was that one that we watched in Noitamina block F.
Yeah.
CBK.F.
Yeah.
That one ended up being kind of disappointing because the mystery itself was not very good, right? It was a locked room mystery that was ended up being pretty bizarre and convoluted. And
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I liked its twist.
yeah, but I'm hoping it's somewhere along the line. So having watched 2 episodes, I think there's 3 out now that just came out, but having watched 2 episodes, it seems to be will follow the pattern of, there's a serial killer. They need to identify who and stop that killer. And that's going to kind of repeat. But as you do that, you're going to discover more about Sakaido, the detective. In this construct, he's not really a detective, and you'll get more of that in episode 2. You'll also learn about the police force involved with this, and apparently, Japan has gone to shit because there's like multiple serial killers on the loose. Because this is a way to stop serial killers, right? Killers that have killed before and will kill again. That's how they're getting these particles. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, so if it stays dark and interesting, I'm in. If it starts going, weirdly off topic or the mystery doesn't hold, then I'm out. But as of episode 2, I'm still willing to check it out and give a little bit of leeway because of this weird sci-fi premise of being these cognition particles that you can pick up and construct a killer's mind.
So my take on this show was a little bit kind of a lot like what Albert was saying, but one of the things that I kind of noticed, or at least kind of took oddly, was when they introduced the character who we're calling detective. They did like one of those like character introduction scenes, like the Jigsawed Man and like Splash, and I almost had an idea that this was going to be like another like say Danganronpan like style kind of thing where you introduce all the characters and they have this gimmicky quirk about them. And I've only seen one, so I can't say anything about two. But what really intrigues me about like this mythology of what they've kind of like come up with is how he's called the Jigsaw Man. He's analyzing the psyche. Well, he's piecing together this is the show about killer. You can see how you can
Is that
translate
Nick or?
what you're
I think it's Nick.
not
Okay.
typing. Answer here.
Hey Nick, you're breaking up really bad.
Nope.
I think the serial killer is targeting Nick.
He's buffering.
He's dead.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Nick was fake all along. He was a robot.
Yeah, he's frozen. On screen, too.
Well,
Okay.
it is kind of interesting from the outside that it's directed by Aoki, the director of like Recreators, and he has his own studio, Troika, but he's not making this anime at that studio, even though he's the founder of Troika. I don't know. There's probably some story behind like why he is doing that.
It's being made by Naz, I think. Yeah, Naz. So, oh god, yeah, they did not have a good. They're doing 2 shows. They're actually doing Infinite Dendrogram this season, right?
Hmm.
But they also did My Sister, My Writer, and before that, Anglomois, Record of Mongol Invasion, which also had production issues. And My First Girlfriend is a Gal from 2017. Yeah.
Oh, they got quality show there.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this now. Now that I know what the studio is. So, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, you could check out episode 2, and you'll probably get it. I mean, there's some tropey parts too that will come in, and if you've watched enough mystery or uh, murder mystery shows and or movies, you'll be like, oh, I could see this is what's going to happen. Oh, that's not the real killer. Oh no, he's no. And so it depends on how much you can enjoy that part with it.
He'll eventually pull out the bow tie voice changer and the poison dart watch to solve the mystery.
I don't know. So we'll see. but at least it's interesting enough to check out for the next couple of episodes. So, like I said, the first two episodes is one short arc. So, Sean, if you want to just check out the second episode, you'll know if you're going to be more interested or not.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I
So
probably got to go after this.
let's go to the next title real quick. It's on
Yeah, I got.
Crunchyroll. It's called Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it. So let's see here what's going on.
Looks like Nick can't reconnect.
All right.
So, but anyway, I've got to go. So
All right. Thank
I
you for
will
joining us.
see you guys at a later time.
See ya.
You have a nice one.
Bye.
Take care.
So I think Nick's the only other person watching this, and he's gone.
Oh.
So this show is pure comedy, rom-com, pretty funny. It takes place when
Sorry, what is the show? I didn't catch it.
science fell in love, so I tried to prove it. So it takes place in a university, and one of the female I don't know what they're doing there actually, if they're professors or if they're just students or what's going on in there. I think they're in a research club. I think they kind of explain it in the next third episode. But one of the females in that show, Ayame, tells the this other coworker or the other partner, lab partner in there, Shinya, that she's in love with him, and he just totally like is so embarrassed, and he's kind of shocked that someone said this to him, and she's also very embarrassed as well, because these are, from the looks of it, are very they're so serious and all into science that it's not something that they would really be into, which is love. So by her announcing that, he then turns to her and goes, wait, how do you know that you are in love? Can you really say you're in love? So the whole premise of the series, I guess, is going to be them trying to prove that she's in love with him or if he's in love with her. So they're doing all these weird experiments where at one point they're doing like, the wall pound, where he corners her into the wall. they read her heart rate, and if it goes up, that might mean she's in love. So he tries it, and her heart rate goes up, and then, uh-oh, could this really be love? And he's like, wait, that's only one test. We gotta keep on doing more to prove that this really does raise your heart rate. And as they go through it, they do 100 more of it, and her heart rate goes down. And they're like, so that means it really wasn't love. And she's like, well, maybe it's just because I got used to it. And then they realize that him doing it so long, or doing the motions so much, that his motions kind of turn into like a sumo pound rather than a wall pound. So that's why the effects was lowered. So it's just all these comedy skits about trying to prove love with different things that are going on, one other thing was like head patting, but it's very cute for the female Ayame, and because you could tell there's a big romance between the two, but they just don't want to say it is, that they want to prove it is. And she has this like little ponytail in the back that's always wagging as well when she's super happy, when he's doing stuff like the head patting or even the wall pound, or even she sits on his lap for some time. But it's even they even have a moment where they're trying to prove that can you show love by cooking food? There's just food, and then there's food cooked with love. Does the different tastes really change? So it's a really interesting comedy skit that doesn't take place in high school, but in a college university. So it's a nice little change, and it's somewhat entertaining. So um,
Okay, it does sound interesting.
it's something that I enjoy on the side. So I'm probably going to watch it all the way to the end because it's episodic and it's pretty fun as you're introduced to the other people that are in the same club or lab or whatever you want to call it, and their quirks. Of course, you got the one guy that's an otaku that tries to talk to them all about love because he's the love master, but then you realize that it's because he plays all the dating sims. So, you got that thing. He's like, yeah, I've spent over $200,000 on my girl, and the other guys, the female Ayame is like, oh, I haven't even spent that much. That means my love is worthless. Type of things going on. So
I'm trying to remember what was that anime where the dude played visual novels on his PlayStation Portable, and then
uh,
some there was like a
the world
I don't
God
know.
only knows.
Yeah. Or no, or yeah, that's one.
Yes.
Where he's like using all his like Renai game techniques or whatever
Yeah, but
in
of
real
course,
life, and it's all magically working.
yeah, and he makes jokes like, I'm in love with this girl called Akane before you even know he's talking about dating sims. Like, I sleep with her every day, and you realize it's just the body pillow and stuff like that. So it's got some tropey quirks of the comedy of love, and it's very entertaining. And then you got, of course, the one normal girl within the club that's in there that's trying to keep them under control, but it's pretty fun. I don't think we've seen all the characters yet, so I'm excited to see what other characters we'll see in the future. But if you want to get into a nice little rom-com, just innocent love comedy, rather than the edo comedy that you see a lot out there, this is a nice little show you might want to pick up.
So more innocent than the reviewer.
Yeah, definitely. Other than that, I don't know if there's any other shows out there that you might want to talk about. I know I was actually excited for ReZero until I realized it was the director's cut that was being released. I got totally tricked by that.
Hmm.
I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
think
the
the
second
second
season.
season. Oh yeah, I think that's in April or something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was this season, and I went hit play and I started seeing. I'm like, wait a minute, this back out. I'm like, what's
Rerun.
going on? It's funny. I read some of the comments and everyone's like, they just reset the whole series. You just gotta watch it. It's different. It's the whole same premise. So you got that show going on. So I guess it's a nice way to catch up on everything that happened with the director's cut before the new season starts. So I may watch it to see what's changes or if there are any changes, or how big they are, because that's what everyone's been saying. There's just new scenes, and it's taken and they're broken up into like 1 hour long parts. And
I don't know.
what were you gonna say?
I don't know. If I was to paraphrase the ones from the Big Bang Theory, where they went to watch the Indiana Jones director's cut, they added like 27 seconds or something like that into the whole movie.
But
Feels like this is what's exactly doing with it. It's like
that
they might have
changes
like a
everything, man. Changes.
couple seconds over here and there, just to tempt people to watch into. It's like I cannot possibly watch that series again. I took too much damage through the first half of the show.
We also have Isekai Quartet season 2, which is coming out very slowly, which I still find hilarious, even with the new episode. They added the shield hero,
I love that.
So, I'm I'm wondering if they still call it the quartet because it's only the 4 people in the same class and he's in a different class. Because I thought they should change it with the new isekai person there. But
I,
the only thing I really wanted to know, and I don't think anyone was watching it, was the railgun.
mm,
No, I'm not on the railgun train at this point.
Because like the second
yeah.
season was good, so I was kind of wondering if maybe that third season would continue off being good. Because I hated the first season of it.
I think this is one of those franchise that kind of had a too long of a pause in between the seasons. If they continue like every say 2 years or so, I think they'll keep the interest going. But they just take too much detours between this series and the main series, and they kind of flipping back and forth. And there's years where nothing ever happens. So at this point, I don't know if I want to watch this season 3 or try to catch up by rewatching the first and second seasons. I don't know if I have endurance to do that.
I see. The only other thing I was curious about, which I heard or I read, that Kyutei Dragons was released all at once on Netflix in Japan. This new season, but I didn't see anything out there to try to watch it.
Oh, that thing, the Polygon Pictures thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Netflix and Polygon Pictures are an item or something. They got that Godzilla like CG anime trilogy on there.
It looks interesting enough, but there's no way of watching it.
Yeah, that's one sad thing I was really hoping to check out. But other than that, the only other thing we have new was what do you call it? That movie. What was it? Weathering with You?
Yeah, Weathering with You.
Sean,
Tenchi
did
no
you watch it?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
Did not.
Vincent, did you watch it?
Yeah.
Because I heard you said you might miss it, so I didn't know if you.
Oh no, it's I missed out at the Anime NYC because they had a terrible line management, so I ended up buying the tickets and did watch it. I liked that, but I'm afraid that Your Name might become the cornerstone of his career. It just wasn't as good. It just something feels off. The drama sometimes feels a little bit forced. Uh, I mean, drawings are there. I mean, it looks beautiful as it always has been, but I don't think storyline is quite up to snuff. That's my quick take on the movie. Some people might feel differently about it, and I think it actually clocked in number 14 on the weekend box office, so it did pretty well, given that it really didn't open in too many places. But I mean, we'll see. I'm hoping that his next movie, whenever they decide to come in, 2-3 years from now on, will give a better ideas as to whether he still has the better things to deliver, or if this is gonna be it. I think I put a little blog about in the MeWe about how I can't help but to feel the same parallel with Hosoda, where after the Wolf Children, he seems to be just going down and down and down with a few more newer movies.
Yeah, I suppose as someone who's been thinking about anime in terms of like creators for like decades, but I think I've sort of come to terms with the fact that a lot of big name creators out there now, they've already made their best works. And I'm pretty sure that's true with Hosoda unless he like really switches it up and does something. And I've kind of felt that way about Shinkai since like that original that he made. What was it? Voices of a Distant Star, Hoshino Koe.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seems like he makes the same thing over and over again.
I mean, he
And
does have that, yeah.
Though I think he's changed the way he ends stuff because I used to be really upset with his endings.
hmm,
Like I didn't like how a lot of his shows ended, or I wasn't pleased with them. But with Your Name and this one, I was actually like, okay, I can accept this ending.
yeah, Your Name was kind of like this, you know, ex machina thing, but it did end happily, which I guess is different.
This,
I felt like with Your Name, he's like, okay, I'm gonna make the same kind of movie that I always make, but this one, it's got to make money. And it's gonna like be a real crowd pleaser, and and it was pretty okay. And it did make a lot of money, and it was a real crowd pleaser.
Hmm.
yeah, and
I mean,
the music really stuck a lot too.
yeah. I mean, I think he used the same musicians as Your Name, Red Wimp, was it?
Yes.
They threw the little some music video segment during the interview section. Uh, I don't know. Whereas in Your Name, the whole time travel kind of opens up the can of worm about all those plot holes and what have you. This one, I had more issues with the storyline in general, or how some of the characters just doesn't seem to match the expectation in a way. That after you watch the movie, you kind of have a certain expectation about okay, how so this is this character, this is there's a different archetype of a characters that you expected to see and follow through, and parts of the movie really did not follow that. But instead of actually having a good reason for it, it almost feels as it's been forced into it just for the sake of being different. And I think it really disrupted the overall flow of the movie because there's a times during the movie I was feeling very squirmish, and not because of a seat was uncomfortable or because of I was stuck next to the guy who's about twice the size of me, ready to just bulging into my seat, anything like that. I mean, but that wasn't the reason why I was squirming. Just that I was getting very uncomfortable with how the story was unfolding, especially with the gun, and it really just didn't sit well with me.
Hmm.
It's almost as if he's like trying to. I think he understands that he cannot keep on making the movie that feels just like Your Name over and over and expect people's gonna get bored out of it. But I think he really didn't had a good idea as to how to make it different without being either being forced or just simply run into the wall where he really had no idea what to do with it, just other than just to throw it there and hopefully he'll figure out down the road, which he kind of did, but it's I don't think it really went well in some aspects. Because I mean, for once, the main character gets beat up a lot, and I don't think most of them really was necessary. I think it just almost as if they just throw that out there as a shock value more than anything, because how Japan is, peaceful, orderly, nobody owns a gun, and most horrible crime might be somebody running around with a knife and stabbing somebody. But okay, so since that's not gonna be all that surprising, let's throw in a gun and see how that goes. A teenager and a gun, it's gotta be really shocking. I'm like, yeah, but do I really want to see that in his movie? Not really. Do I really think it really fits into the whole story narrative? I don't know. I don't think it did. Some might disagree with me on that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
The thing that I enjoyed the most, or actually the character I enjoyed the most, was the niece that worked in the office. She was the best. She made the movie for me. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed her. Um, the other characters were somewhat fun, but she's just the biggest driving force. And also the fact that they showed some other characters, I'm not going to say right now, was surprising. And it made the whole theater go like, oh, shocked and everything when they
Yeah.
saw them. It was kind of fun to see the whole theater just murmur when these characters appeared. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
I like the little brother.
Yeah, he was pretty funny too, especially that one scene with the girls come in.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
uh, but visually, like you said, it's great. It was wonderful. Some scenes I thought were really well done, but some others, like where the water was pulling on his face as he was laying down and it was dripping
Mm-hmm.
down, didn't really seem to match what I would thought the animation style was. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, uh, it I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know how I would feel if I were to watch it again and see what you're talking about, because I didn't really feel any of that. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Maybe I was just like, "Yay, it's pretty." I was just watching, having fun with it. But uh, I was kind of disappointed a lot in the music, because in the first one the music was really catchy, and it was stuck in my head all the time. But this one, it seemed very low key, and I don't know if it was just trying to play low key too because of the weather and the rain, because rain is supposed to be peaceful and calming. So I don't know if that was why. But other than that, it's still a title I would recommend to a few people to watch. Of course, you have to watch Your Name first, I would say.
Well, yeah, but I mean, his fans gonna watch it no matter what. I think it's gonna be really up to the next movie to really decide whether he's gonna have a legs to stand on, or people's gonna start feel that he's making same thing over and over. It's just a worse quality. It passes by and tune it down a bit because you know in Hosoda's after the Wolf Children, right after that was the cop and the was it Bear's character? That drew a lot of people to watch it. Then after that, when he made his next movie Mirai, box office figure really did suffer. Not many people did turn up in both Japan and here and elsewhere because I think a lot of people was disappointed by the following movies. And this one will dry, but I'm I'm more interested to see what's gonna happen in his next movie. Whether it's gonna be another very pretty to look at and predictable characters, and oh my God, is it gonna be another teenager drama? Is it always gotta be the teenager drama? Is it always gotta be setting in a high school setting? Can we move on to, I don't know, college setting or grown-up setting for once? Or does it have some kind of fixation over has to be the teenage drama?
Hmm.
I think it's starting to getting on me too.
The only other thing I would like to say was I think it was this movie that they didn't have McDonald's, right? It was McDonald's.
Yes, I'm surprised by that. So, oh my God, they finally properly licensed the company to actually feature McDonald's and Big Mac and 100% beef instead of McDonald's
Oh
or
man,
Wagnaria.
that felt like so much like an advertisement. Oh, look at this plumpy thing. It's the most delicious thing I've ever eaten.
I bet they had a merchandise tied in Japan when the movie first came out there in summer. I bet
Oh,
McDonald's did have advertisement or promotional thing going on since
uh,
they're actually sponsoring it.
yeah, that made me laugh so much when I saw that. I was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, it's not McDonald's, it's McDonald's. I can't believe it.
But I do have to say that McDonald's does taste better elsewhere from the few places I've been to. Because I always make a habit of trying out McDonald's elsewhere because they usually have their local variety. They got their Big Mac, but they usually have a regional specialty going on. But I can't say, I don't know why. I mean, fries taste more or less the same, but the burger tastes better. So when he was like biting into it, I said, but this is the most delicious meal he had in about 17, 16 years or whatever, what have you. I was like, yeah, I believe that.
There was one thing that they left a lot open,
Mhm.
I would say that kind of upset me, but I'm kind of drawing my own conclusion was like why he left his hometown.
Yeah, I think the purpose. I don't know if they was on purpose, but it's almost as if he got stuck in this tiny town with no perspective or anything else. He's bored out of his mind. The family's expecting same things. I gotta get out of here, kind of thing. That still doesn't explain as to why he decided to leave, because I'm sure every other kids around his age probably felt the same way, living in rural area, not in Tokyo or
See,
Osaka.
that's the thing that kind of bothered me because to me, I kind of wondered like because he really didn't want to go back, and when he was riding
Hmm.
the ship on his way, it looked like he had been beaten. So I was wondering if there's like some kind of domestic violence or something going on as well that we just don't know
Seems
about.
it sounds like it's implied, but they never really explain in details.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is plausible that he had a dispute with his father or something over disagreement. He decided to bolt it out after getting beat up one too many times.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna end the YouTube stream here and say thank you everyone for watching. Tune in closer to May, I guess, maybe April, as we do the end of the year review. Thank you for watching, and I hope everyone else out there has fun watching this new season. Any closing words, Vincent?
No, thank you for having me, and I'll see you again soon.
All right, thank you, everyone.